July 15, 18. The city of Strasbourg was like many other European towns of its time. Merchants filled the marketplaces. Farmers arrived each morning with carts full of goods. Children played in the streets while craftsmen worked long hours in small workshops. Life was difficult, but it was predictable. Nobody expected that a single woman would soon become the center of one of history's strangest mysteries. One warm summer morning, a woman named Frau Trophia stepped into a busy street. Without warning, she began to dance. There was no music, no celebration, no festival taking place anywhere in the city. Yet she continued moving. At first, the townspeople paid little attention. Some laughed, others smiled and continued their work. But as the hours passed, something became clear. This was not normal dancing. She wasn't entertaining anyone. She wasn't celebrating. She couldn't stop. The woman continued moving beneath. The city slowly became quiet. Merchants packed their goods. Families returned home. The streets emptied. Yet Frau Trophia continued dancing. Hour after hour, she moved through the darkness. Sweat covered her face. Her breathing became heavy. Her movements became slower and more painful. Still, she refused to stop. Some villagers attempted to help her. Others begged her to sit down and rest. But every attempt failed. The woman seemed trapped inside her own body. When the sun rose the next morning, she was still dancing. The townspeople were shocked. No ordinary person could continue moving for so long. Fear began spreading through Strasbourg. Something was terribly wrong. The second day passed. Then the third. Frau Trophia's condition became horrifying. Her feet were swollen. Blood stained the stones beneath her. Her muscles trembled from exhaustion. Yet somehow she continued dancing. Rumors spread throughout the city. Some believed she had been cursed. Others claimed she was possessed by an evil spirit. Many believed God was punishing her for unknown sins. Nobody had a real explanation. The mystery only grew deeper. People traveled from nearby villages just to witness the strange event. Everywhere, people asked the same question. Why couldn't she stop? Then something impossible happened. Another person suddenly began dancing. Soon a second dancer appeared, then another, and another. Within days, several townspeople were moving uncontrollably through the streets. The city was stunned. What had begun with a single woman was becoming something much larger. The strange behavior seemed to be spreading. People watched in disbelief as more victims joined the growing crowd of dancers. No one knew who would be next. As the days passed, the number of dancers continued to increase. Dozens of people now filled the streets. Some danced for hours. Others danced for entire days without stopping. The city of Strasbourg was consumed by panic. Families feared for their loved ones. Neighbors avoided one another. Every morning brought new dancers. Every evening brought new questions. Nobody understood why this was happening. But everyone knew one thing. The nightmare was only beginning. As fear spread through Strasbourg, city leaders desperately searched for answers. The strange outbreak was growing larger every day. Nobody understood what was causing it. The dancers showed no signs of stopping. Many were physically exhausted. Some could barely stand. Yet they continued moving. Concerned officials called the city's physicians. The doctors carefully examined the victims. They checked for signs of illness. They looked for injuries. They searched for anything that could explain the bizarre behavior. After days of observation, the physicians reached a shocking conclusion. The dancers were suffering from what they called hot blood. According to medieval medicine, excessive heat in the blood could force people into unusual behavior. The doctors believed they understood the problem. Unfortunately, they were completely wrong. The physicians proposed a treatment. It sounded strange, but at the time, many people believed it made sense. The doctors argued that the dancers should not be stopped. Instead, they should continue dancing until the condition left their bodies. The more they danced, the sooner they would recover. City officials accepted the advice. Desperate for a solution, they put the plan into action. No one realized that this decision would make the disaster far worse. The people trusted the doctors. After all, who else could explain such a mysterious event? But the treatment would soon become one of the greatest mistakes in the city's history. Large wooden stages were built throughout Strasbourg. The authorities wanted to give the dancers space to continue moving. Musicians were hired. Drummers played day and night. Flute players filled the air with music. The city hoped the dancers would finally recover. Instead, the opposite happened. The constant music seemed to encourage the outbreak. More people joined the growing crowds. More dancers appeared every day. The streets became filled with movement. Exhausted bodies stumbled across the town square. What had started as a strange mystery was becoming a full-scale crisis. People began to wonder whether anyone could stop it. Day after day, the dancing continued. The human body can only endure so much punishment. Many dancers collapsed from exhaustion. Some suffered severe dehydration. Others injured themselves after days of constant movement. The town square became a place of suffering. Families watched helplessly as loved ones struggled to stop. Doctors offered little comfort. The music continued. The dancing continued. And the number of victims continued to rise. The situation had moved beyond fear. Now, people were terrified. Nobody knew how many more would be affected. Nobody knew how the nightmare would end. Soon the entire city seemed trapped by fear. Church bells echoed across Strasbourg. Families locked themselves inside their homes. Parents warned children to stay away from the streets. Shops closed early. Businesses suffered. Every conversation revolved around the dancers. People whispered about curses. They whispered about demons. Some believed the end of the world was approaching. Dark storm clouds gathered above the city. The atmosphere felt heavy and hopeless. Nobody understood what was happening. Nobody understood why it had started. And nobody knew how to stop it. But the worst part of the mystery was still ahead. The dancing plague had not yet reached its peak. As the weeks passed, the situation became even more frightening. The dancers were no longer simply exhausted. Many were reaching the limits of what the human body could endure. Some collapsed in the middle of the streets. Others could barely stand. Yet somehow they continued moving. Witnesses described people dancing until their muscles gave out. Some cried for help while their bodies refused to stop. The city watched in horror. Reports began spreading that several dancers had died from exhaustion. Others suffered heart problems, strokes, and severe dehydration. Whether every report was accurate remains uncertain. But one thing was clear. The outbreak was becoming deadly. The mystery that had begun with a single woman was now threatening the entire city. Fear spread faster than the dancing itself. People avoided crowded areas. Merchants abandoned their stalls. Families stayed indoors whenever possible. The streets that were once filled with business and conversation became strangely quiet. Citizens watched from windows as dancers moved through the city. Nobody wanted to get too close. Many believed the condition might somehow spread from person to person. Rumors traveled quickly. Every day brought a new story. Some claimed entire families had been affected. Others believed dark forces were moving through Strasbourg. The city was trapped between fear and confusion, and still nobody could explain what was happening. Without answers, many people turned to religion. Priests searched for explanations in ancient beliefs. One theory soon became popular. Many believed the dancers had been cursed by Saint Vitus. According to local tradition, Saint Vitus had the power to punish people with uncontrollable dancing. The idea spread rapidly. Citizens whispered about the curse in marketplaces, churches, and homes. Some believed the dancers had offended God. Others believed evil spirits were responsible. The more people talked about the curse, the more real it seemed. So much of Strasbourg accepted the idea. Perhaps this was not a disease at all. Perhaps it was a punishment. As fear grew stronger, churches filled with desperate people. Day and night, prayers echoed through the city. Families knelt before candles. Citizens begged for protection. Many believed only divine intervention could stop the outbreak. Priests led prayers for the dancers. Religious processions moved through the streets. The atmosphere was filled with fear and uncertainty. People searched desperately for hope. Yet despite the prayers, the dancing continued. Every morning, new victims appeared. Every evening, the mystery remained unsolved. The city felt powerless. No doctor had a cure. No priest had an answer. The nightmare seemed endless. Finally, the authorities decided to try something different. The doctor's advice had clearly failed. The music stopped. The stages were removed. The dancers were gathered together and taken away from Strasbourg. Many were sent on a pilgrimage to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus. The journey was long and difficult, but people believed it might break the curse. Some dancers wore special red shoes. Others participated in religious ceremonies. Everyone hoped the nightmare was finally coming to an end. The fate of the city now rested on a desperate act of faith. And surprisingly, something unexpected was about to happen. Then something remarkable happened. The outbreak began to fade. One by one, the dancers stopped. People who had spent days moving uncontrollably suddenly regained control of their bodies. The streets slowly became quieter. The crowds disappeared. The constant fear that had gripped Strasbourg for weeks began to weaken. Citizens cautiously returned to their daily lives. Merchants reopened their stalls. Families stepped outside once more. For the first time in weeks, the city felt normal. Yet nobody understood why the outbreak had ended. Was it the pilgrimage? Was it the prayers? Was it simply chance? No one could say for certain. The mystery that had terrified an entire city remained unanswered. Months passed. Life gradually returned to normal. But the strange events of 1518 were never forgotten. Witnesses told stories to their children. Officials recorded what had happened. Priests wrote about the outbreak. Historians preserved the accounts. Generation after generation continued asking the same question. What had caused hundreds of people to dance uncontrollably? No known disease seemed to fit the symptoms. No clear explanation existed. The record survived. The mystery survived. And over 500 years later, people are still searching for answers. Modern historians and scientists have proposed many theories. One popular explanation involves contaminated grain. In medieval Europe, a fungus known as ergot sometimes grew on rye. This fungus could cause hallucinations and strange behavior. Some researchers suggested that poisoned food may have triggered the outbreak. Others disagreed. The symptoms did not perfectly match known cases of ergot poisoning. Another theory focuses on extreme stress. The people of Strasbourg lived difficult lives. Famine, disease, poverty, and fear were common. Some experts believe the dancers experienced what is known today as mass psychogenic illness, a condition in which psychological stress spreads through entire communities. Yet even this explanation leaves questions unanswered. The dancing plague forces us to think about the power of the human mind. Can fear spread from person to person? Can belief influence behavior? Can an entire community experience the same psychological crisis? History shows that human beings are deeply influenced by those around them. Fear can spread. Panic can spread. Beliefs can spread. Perhaps the events of 1518 reveal something important about human nature. Or perhaps there is still something we have failed to understand. The mystery continues to challenge scientists, historians, and psychologists even today. And that is what makes this story so fascinating. More than 500 years have passed since the summer of 1518. The streets of Strasbourg are peaceful now. The dancers are gone. The witnesses are gone. The city has changed, but the mystery remains. Hundreds of ordinary people danced for days and sometimes weeks. Many suffered terribly. Some may have even lost their lives. Yet nobody has ever discovered the exact cause. Perhaps one day science will provide the answer. Perhaps new evidence will finally solve the puzzle. Until then, the dancing plague of 1518 remains one of the strangest and most mysterious events in human history. A story that continues to confuse experts. A story that continues to fascinate the world. And a reminder that sometimes the greatest mysteries are not found in legends or myths. They are found in real history. The mystery remains unsolved.